Welcome to the Back to Me podcast, where we help multicultural incoming freshman women and men manage their entire college experience throughout post-graduation to successfully transition into entrepreneurship and corporate workspaces as new hires.
Back to me. Oh, I turned it around. I'm back to me. I finally figured it out. I'm back to me. So when you think you have nothing, back to me. I go back to me. Yeah, I'm back to me.
Hello, everyone. It's your host, Yoli Tamu. The pressures of daily living can distract you from the pursuit of your personal goals. In today's episode, clinical social worker and college coach Alissa Young joins us to help you stay in alignment with the things that bring you joy and fulfillment. Learn how Alissa managed to overcome severe depression and suicidal ideation by pursuing a career that excites and challenges her every day. Enjoy. We all have experiences that have shaped us, but those of us who know how to take those experiences and align them with purpose have figured out the secret sauce of life. Today, we have Associate Clinical Social Worker Alissa Young with us to discuss the power of alignment. Welcome to the podcast, Alissa. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm excited to talk to you. I mean, we had a great prep call, and wow, Dr. Z referred me to you. So I'm so happy.
Absolutely. Such a great mentor and such a great life coach. So I'm super happy that she referred us.
Yes, yes, yes. So now you are a clinical social worker. So tell me about that. What's different from that and I guess, a normal or regular social worker without that clinical title?
Yes. So I'm a clinical social worker. That means that I currently practice as a therapist. For graduate school, I went to USC, obtained a master's of social work. And so, with that being said, I decided to go down the clinical route of social work. So, I practice as a therapist. I currently work at a university. That university is the University of San Diego. And I definitely have been loving my job ever since I've started. So,
Wow. Now you told me that you applied to many schools and got accepted to all of them.
I did. So this was definitely on my journey of alignment. So I applied to, I want to say almost 8 schools. I was in this space where I really wanted to just like apply to different colleges. I knew that that was the target population I really wanted to get to. And so I applied to schools such as CSU Fresno, Pepperdine, University of San Diego, of course, and then also CSU Monterey Bay. And basically all of the schools that I applied to ended up within like maybe like a 2 to 3 week time period giving me an offer for acceptance for work. So I actually was able to like get into the college field with choices on the table. And that was just that confirmation of like, you know what, you're actually working in the alignment space. You're actually like meeting passion and purpose, and everything is just fully just working out in God's favor. So that's a little bit about that background story. Thanks for sharing that.
Hey, man, that is so cool. Every school? That's not common.
Every single school. And could you imagine the like literally, I was in this space of like a really deep depression. And I guess just to give like a little bit of background, I'm born and raised in Southern California. I currently practice as a clinical therapist, but I'm also a college coach, right? I probably, I want to say almost 3 years ago, almost 2 to 3 years ago, went through this season of just a rough time period with a lot of different people. I went through this situation of like severe depression. I had revisited this concept of suicidal ideation and like feeling like I didn't even want to be here anymore. And so, with that being said, I really had to get on this level of, you know what, I don't want to be in this feeling anymore. I don't want to feel stuck anymore. I don't want to feel like I can't go out and pursue my dreams, or I can't even wake up in the morning to pursue happiness. And so I really got serious about getting a life coach. I got serious about getting a therapist. And I was able to really figure out like, what is it that I really want to do as a career? What is it that I really want to do, even if I wasn't getting paid to do it? And so then, I basically just got to this point of like in a week, I applied to all these universities. I knew that that was the next goal in life. I felt like I had so many conversations with God about it. I felt like I had so many confirmations from God of like, it is finished. Even when I was like sitting in church and I was just like, God, what do I do with all these things that are happening right now? He's just like, trust me in this process, right? And so I basically just, I think within a week's time, just submitted all these college applications for a job position as a clinical therapist. And ironically, all of these schools at one time were looking for a clinical therapist. And so I'm sitting here interviewing around, and yeah, it does not happen all the time. I have never met anybody that has had the same experience happen, but I'm definitely fortunate and I'm definitely blessed to be able to be in that position where that was my experience and that was my story.
Man, that says a lot about, what I was saying at the top of how your experience connects to your passion. So, that must have rang true through your statement, through your essays, through your submissions to these schools that, you're really passionate about what you do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it's definitely funny because I used to work as a college advisor, and I was actually in grad school working as a college advisor. And then I was in this catch 22 space because I had just graduated from USC. And then my current employer at that time was like, okay, well, like you have your master's of social work. I'm assuming that you're going to go ahead and just apply to be a therapist. And basically almost terminated my services as a college advisor, and I was devastated.
Mm.
And I really at that time couldn't understand how I could make my passion population work with the clinical master's degree that I had. And so to be in this space where it absolutely makes sense and I've been able to find where my degree matches my interest. And yes, at that time I was very devastated because I've always liked college students. I think because of my own personal experiences as well, I was able to relate to a lot of different situations that college students typically face. When I was in undergrad, and one, I'm definitely a first generation college student, so that's number one. Two, I'm a woman of color, a black woman at that. And three, I came from a low income community, so one of those things that like I could definitely relate to was being an undergrad and like having two jobs, full-time jobs, and trying to balance like academics but also personal things that are going on. And so I just think that my story and my experience has definitely made me more relatable to that specific population. And so ever since I've been working at the university setting, it's been like, wow, this is what you're meant to be. Like the joy of being able to get up in the morning and get to your job and be excited about meeting with students every day. The ability to professionally and clinically like hold on to spaces of clients and being able to just give them support, but also knowing by experience what support they need, not by textbook, but that's also important, but by experience, being able to know like what a student needs and what a student could use as benefit or support at that time. I think it's just really great. And it's been a great feeling to be in this space for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, I was just going to say, as an educator, I have the opportunity to just really learn as well from the kids, and we share our personal experiences in those intimate spaces. So to hear you say you're a college coach, you're providing that intimacy to them as well, which I think, I don't know, you let me know, but sometimes when you just call yourself a college coach outside of therapy, they don't feel like they're in therapy. You know what I mean? They're just having a conversation. And when we talk about experiences, do you feel like in those situations, you're able to talk about being a preacher's kid? Because you told me you were a preacher's kid. Are you able to have those conversations with them and talk about your suicidal
Yes.
experiences?
Yes. So I'm able to have it just conversations that definitely kind of expand outside of like the therapy realm. So one of the things I did discuss previously is I am a preacher's kid. And so with that being said, even the idea of me kind of going away to college was something that was a little bit different in the sense of like traditionally within the church that I was raised in, it was kind of like, you should still remain in the church, right? Like you have an obligation to also like pursue education, but are you going to be able to pursue education but also serve God and also remain as a figure and a leader in the church? And so I'm able to have creative conversations because therapy sometimes and most times is more so of helping the clients be able to come to their own conclusions and own realities and decisions about what they want in life and what their next steps are. And we're just simply just the holder of space and the holder of resources and the holder of reflective questions to support clients. But as a college coach, you're able to dive deeper. And maybe there is a student that also was raised in a preacher's kid family and understands some of the boundary concerns and understands the difference between like trying to like pursue your own personal wants versus like the wants of others. You know, some of the other things I can definitely have as a conversation is as a college coach, I can speak to parents. I can speak to parents when the situation is my child is a first generation college student. And as a parent, I'm feeling lost. Like, I don't know how to navigate college applications. I don't know how to navigate financial aid. I don't even know what FAFSA is. And so I'm able to have those conversations. So I feel like the window of opportunity to be able to help students, and especially students of color in particular as well, I think just definitely broadens when you think about college coaching.
Hmm. Hmm. And then I'm just thinking, with being a preacher's kid, I've had these conversations before about spirituality and that component in therapy. Do you incorporate it in some way, or you do not? You try to stay away from it in your sessions?
So in therapy, I know that, of course, if like a client mentions that they do have some religious undertones and like they're more than welcome to kind of express that or use that in their therapeutic process. However, I really don't go in with the intention or mindset of exploring religion unless the client is sharing that that's something that is important to them and that's something that's influencing their decision or their current outcome or their current situation. But other than that, I'm like, as a college coach, you can definitely have conversations related to religion if that is of topic. I know for me, spirituality is also religion, but it's also alignment. So I know one of the things that I've really been focusing on personally is this idea of understanding that like finding God in all things. So when I wake up in the morning, I don't have to necessarily like always go to a church house in order to be able to have a close relationship with God a lot of times. And so I can have the freedom and luxury of listening to a sermon now on a podcast, or I can have the freedom and luxury of being able to just have a genuine, raw conversation with God, or using like 40-day prayer journals and, having that communication with God. And it doesn't always have to be in a church house for me. But that's also been something that has been a part of my spiritual journey. So, as a college coach, I definitely can talk about those spiritual journeys. But as a therapist, I try to not include the spirituality and the religion aspect unless a client shares that they're interested in that specific topic, or if they are having something that impacts them to a certain level where that's important for them to kind of dive deeper on.
That's great. And I think it's important for you to say that, if they introduce it, I'm open to having the conversation. Because sometimes there's that interpretation, sometimes in our community, particularly, the African American community, is that, it's either church or it's therapy. It's
Yes.
it's either or instead of both.
I'm so happy you said that because that was also a really big dilemma for me when I was even pursuing being a therapist. So I know as being a preacher's kid, and I know my dad was a preacher, my grandfather was also a preacher. I have like uncles that are preachers, and my mom was this like amazing like leader in the church as well. And so the idea of being a therapist was kind of something different because no one in my family had ever sought therapy. And the idea was is that if you're having a difficult time and you need somebody to kind of talk to, of course you would go to the preacher of God, right? Of course you would go to the person that's in the pulpit and you have that conversation and that is your therapist. Especially in the Black Baptist church community, we have this idea of our religious leaders are therapists, but while I was having that debate about like what therapy looks like for me and even exploring whether or not I wanted to be a therapist, I had to actually go through the experience of having a therapist. And then I realized, you know what? I'm actually loving therapy. Like, I'm actually loving this sense of having this third party that is clinically trained,
Yep.
professionally trained, educationally trained to be able to support me, not just on a religious basis, but on an overall therapeutic basis,
Right.
and has had the clinical training to do so. And
Mhm.
so I know for me, that was definitely a very strong internal struggle. I know I definitely had conversations with family, and they were kind of like, well, why do you want to be a therapist? Because we've always just went to X, Y, and Z person. And I think sometimes having that separation of religion and religious leaders and therapy and support can be really helpful. I know for some of my students, their friends and their family have also kind of substituted for being a therapist. And I've definitely worked hard to kind of like undo that understanding of like, having this third party that's trained professionally trained in order to be able to help you. I think that can be really supportive, but I think it's about like knowing that one, therapy is an option, and two, kind of at least trying it, right? Like I know that we've have our like pre like conceived notions about things, but as long as we try it and then see if it's a good fit for us, then we won't know until we try.
So powerful to say. I mean, it's no different than, the Bible talking about fasting, but, if you hire a nutritionist to properly fast or to eat a certain way or to work out your body with a trainer, it's no different. You know what I mean? You go outside and you get this professional help. So both can be beneficial to a person. So thank you for saying that. So now when we talk about your passion and your alignment, for these students, I serve these college freshmen that are in transition, heading into a new environment and the anxiety that goes with that, as well as the college graduate, going into the workforce. So everybody's nervous, about a new experience and trying to stay focused on their goals and why they decided to make those moves. So, how would you say can a person or a student stay focused on their passion and maybe develop a way of recognizing and even identifying their passion in these new spaces?
Yes. So it's funny because I actually work with students all the time that come into my office and they're like, hey, like, I don't even know what my interest is. I don't even know what my passion is. And one thing that I know that I received of like information is just to be still. Like when I was in undergrad and especially grad school, there was so much that I was unsure about. I was in a sociology major as an undergrad student. And I was in that major, but career wise, did I know what I wanted to do? No. Personally, did I know what I wanted to do? No. I just knew that I loved the topic that I was interested in, and the classes were really interesting. And I was able to go to class and be really excited to go to class every day. And then one of my mentors basically said, you know what? If you're unsure about what your next step is, be still. And I did that and I would journal. I would journal a lot of like the thoughts of interest that I had. I would journal like, hey, today I did this. And so I realized that I had this reoccurring pattern of I wanted to always serve people. I wanted to always be of support to someone else. And at that time, I was in the space of I wanted to serve people, even if it was detrimental to me. Now, currently, I'm not in that space, right? So I serve people and I help people as a therapist, as a college coach, especially when I have capacity to. But other than that, I practice replenishing. But for me at that time, one of the best things that I was able to do is just kind of like journal, connect the dots on what your interest is, find your interest, right? So that might mean like exploring like a lot of different classes. That might mean exploring a lot of different on the weekend things that you can do, such as like volunteering or maybe getting an internship or maybe going and seeking like career services advice and maybe taking some tests out there that kind of like help you understand based on the way that you answered these questions, these are some of the career interests that you might be interested in. But most importantly, just having this understanding of there's no rush to have a solid answer. And when you do have your answer, that's when you should have your answer. I think sometimes we always have this understanding, or people are putting pressure on us to be able to know, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. I know that, that's one of the things that I even went through because when I was in undergrad, I started off as an international business major. And there was this like pressure of like, you know what, like go in and make money, right? Like you're the first person in, our like whole family to go to college. Just go in and pick a major that's gonna make you some money. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna learn French. Like I'm gonna go overseas and learn business. And little did I know that that was not what I was meant to be. I was not in connection with the classes. I did not feel like I was in alignment. And the best thing I could have done at that moment was to be still. And so if there was a student that was in that position, I would just say, first, be still. There's no rush. And literally, that is other people putting their expectations on us. And when we really look at what we want, we will also see that there's also no rush. There's no one that has this time clock that says we have to go and do X, Y, and Z things. And so if we just kind of remove others and just prioritize self, students will be able to get the answers that they're looking for.
So powerful. That was my dad's famous quote, be still. Oh, thank you for saying that. And then that is Bible, that's biblical scripture. Be still and know. Love it. Love it. You said be still, and you told me before about not giving up. Can you expand on that a little bit more about the
Yes.
concept of not giving up?
Yes. So just basically, in addition to being still, I know that there's a period of waiting. And in that period of waiting, it can feel like everything is coming to like knock you down. I know for me, I just recently went through an experience where I was earlier this year was so depressed that I was having difficulty getting up in the morning. Like at work, it was showing with like the clients that I was meeting, it was showing. There were so many things that happened. And in that period of just waiting for like the next steps of what I should do and trying to like work on me and being able to like get out of this space that I was in, I realized that I really had to just have this mindset of don't give up.
Mhm.
And even when it looked like everything was just against me, even when it looked like I was really gonna be successful at having my suicide plan that I did have a plan for, there were so many times where I just had people that came up to me and was like, "You know what? Don't give up." And this idea of grit, this idea of resiliency, we talk about it all the time, but it's not until we're actually faced with it that we understand how difficult it could be at that moment. And so if there is somebody that's watching and might be in a space where they're depressed or they're sad or they're having these like anxiety panic attacks and they may be questioning like are they even worth being on this world, right? I would just say, one of the things is that just don't give up. And if this is the confirmation that someone needs in order to be able to just like persevere and continue, I hope that that is the outcome because I fortunately had great mentors. I fortunately had a therapist and a life coach at the same time. And they were just reinforcing this idea of do not give up because there's always going to be a brighter side. And the fact that I'm now in this position where there is this brighter side, I'm getting ready to launch a business that is definitely a passion of mine. And it's just amazing to be in this space. And so that would definitely be my words of encouragement to other people.
I love that you said that. It's amazing to be in this space. It's amazing to be alive,
Absolutely.
to be curious. If anything, what I hear you say when you say don't give up, it's like, if anything, just be curious about life, what the next thing is going to look like, you know?
Absolutely. And you know what? The other thing is that I would say that, like, while you're in the space of don't give up, write down the things that have currently or previously bring you joy. And that was one of the things that, like, I think even for my current, like, therapy students, I would just have them write down the things that bring them joy. What brings a smile to your face? Is it watching comedy? Is it being on a phone call with your girlfriend at 3 a.m., right? And then focus on getting those things done, continuously building them in because, fortunately, my life coach, she was really great in the sense of she was helping us with time management skills and how do we look at our like 24 hours in a day and really prioritize self first and then trying to get everything else that we need to get done. And so I've learned that you have to build in pieces of joy. You have to build in times to be able to execute joy. And when you don't build in those times, unfortunately, it gives depression, anxiety, sadness that window of opportunity to come in and destroy.
Mm, powerful stuff. Wow. Thank you for being with us. My goodness, this is great. Good stuff. Now, if they want to learn more about you, where can they go online to find you?
Yes. So I am currently in the midst of like working on my website, but in the meantime, people can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is hello period Alissa Young, and Alissa Young is spelled ALISSAYOUNG. So again, that's at hello period Alissa Young. So you can feel free to take a look at my Instagram, follow me if you like to. If there was something that I said today that was impactful, please feel free to send me a DM. And then on that Instagram page, you will get updates on when my website is launching, when the services that I offer outside of just therapy services are going to be launching. And hopefully, I can be able to be of support to someone that needs it.
So cool. So cool. Thank you for being with us, Alyssa. And I'm so glad Dr. Z introduced us. And hey, the future is looking bright because you're in it.
Also, shout out to Dr. Z because she has an amazing life coaching program. So I just wanted to shout that out too.
Yes, yes. You got her website. You want to shout out her website?
Yes, it's Greater Self. So you can find her on Instagram, but I believe it's www.greaterself.com. Dr. Z, if it's not right, I'm so sorry, but
That's it.
either way,
Greaterself.org. That's it.
yes, greaterself.org. So yeah, she's great.
Yes. Thank you for connecting us, Dr. Z. All right, Alissa. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for this.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity, and I hope that you have a great day. And
Yes.
I hope everyone that listened was able to take something away from it that could have been supportive, powerful, just helpful in anyone's current circumstance and situation.
That's right. I appreciate you. You take care. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us. If you're unsure of your next steps, remember to be still and never give up, because your answer may be closer than you think. For more information about other episodes, remember to subscribe to the Back to Me podcast, College and Beyond. I'm your host, Yoli Tamu. Leave a review at the end of this podcast, and if you would like to learn more about our book club and other special events, join the Back to Me podcast Facebook group, or simply text Back to Me to 833-206-4565. Until next time, be well.